Melanie Winston says by age 13, she was a full-blown crack addict, and she learned to rob and steal to survive on the streets. Melanie is now clean and recently allowed the defendant to live with her. But during that time, Melanie relapsed, and she's suing her niece today for rent and property damage. Defendant Kiara Winston says while she was living with Melanie, she was always asking Kiara for rides. And eventually, Kiara realized she was asking for rides to buy drugs. Kiara's countersuing for emotional distress.
Start with you.
First of all, I'd like to give you a little bit of history on myself.
I thought you were about to say you'd like to give me a little bit of advice.
No.
I'll accept that too. I don't mind criticism, advice. I'll listen.
I'll accept some.
All right, go ahead.
I was a drug addict at 13. The neighborhood I was in, I was always known to be the youngest drug addict. It was
what type
never
of drugs at age 13?
Crack, cocaine,
at 13,
alcohol.
You were addicted to crack?
Full-blown crack addict, yes,
at
sir.
At 13?
Yes, sir.
That's tough. Go ahead.
In our house, there was a 24/7 gamble spot. You know, it was well known by friends, family, the teenagers. That was the place where you could come, hang out. You know, anybody who knows anything about where I come from been through our address. I learned to rob, steal, whatever I had to do to conform in the street, that's what I did. And that's how I grew up. It wasn't until I was 22 that I had my first experience with recovery.
You didn't catch a case with all those years?
Unfortunately, no. And
unfortunately?
Fortunately, no. Fortunately. I mean, I have been in jail a couple times, but it was like a day. And most of the time, if I did get arrested, I'm that kind of person that'll tell you the truth about who I am. So okay. If I get caught, I'm like, Judge, I'm guilty. Let's just get it over with.
So you entered rehab?
Yes, sir. Good. And I relapsed shortly after.
Inpatient or outpatient?
I did inpatient and outpatient, and also mental health, which I'm involved with now, and I have 2 months clean. I just wanted to say, like, I met the defendant's mom through, you know, kids hanging out. You know, she came through our house, ended up getting with my brother, and, you know, at that time, she knew very well who I was. There was times when
How long ago was that?
We were about 13, 14,
okay.
15,
and she
16.
Knew you were...
She went with my brother, so, you know, most of the hanging out happened in our house when there was hanging out. Like I said, it was known I was a drug addict, you know, problem child, what have you. So it's never been a secret, and that's the point I'm trying to come across. At the time, I had relapsed about June.
Of what year?
2010.
After how long being
16 months consecutively.
Can I say something?
Clean. My daughter.
Allow her to give a little background before we get to the rent and the property damage that you're suing her about.
Okay.
Young lady.
I just want to say, First Your Honor, that I really don't have a relationship with my father or that side of the family. And so I was going to go to school in Rochester. I'm originally from Ithaca. And somehow my aunt found out about it, and she was like, well, you could come stay with me.
How long ago was that?
How long ago? This was in August.
All right. I'm going to go back to her regarding the residency. You give me the background on her moving in.
Okay, this was August 2010. Now, I just need to say that even though we're going through this, that I've always been proud of the fact that she was able, even though she lived in Ithaca, she was one of the people who were able to get into the better schools and have the better opportunities. So I don't at all want to take away from that. So in August, we talked. I told her it was okay, she could come stay. At the particular time in August, we didn't come up with a regular set price because at the time I didn't really know what her situation was. Did you ultimately
come to a price anytime later?
Yeah, she agreed to pay $25 a week.
I didn't.
Okay, beginning when?
September 2nd through October the 4th. She only gave me $10 the whole time she stayed there.
When did she move out?
I had her move out October the 4th, and I like to explain that day.
Go ahead.
The weekend before, I had been on a binge. During the time when she was there, she did about 4 or 5 times give me a ride. However, I had been getting calls saying that she was telling people that I was taking her to drug spots and doing drugs in my house. Your Honor, when I get high, I don't get high in my house. I'm too paranoid. First of all, I live in the suburbs, and when I do use, I'm a runner. I run for 2 and 3 days. So while she was there, I made it a point not to have drugs around her.
So what are you getting to?
She just,
what
because
is the point?
she's always telling people that I was using drugs.
What is your point regarding the rent that you're suing for as it relates to her telling people you were using drugs?
Yeah, she's saying that's the reason why. When it came down to her paying rent, she was saying, I'm just a crackhead.
And you were.
That's right.
Can I say something?
How did she damage you? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, first, Your Honor, I just wanted to say that when we talked and discussed about me moving in, she said that she had DSS in Section 8 and she had social services. So she said, well, my rent is only $20 a month. You don't even have to worry about it. You can come move in with me. We didn't have a set agreement on how much I was supposed to pay because that's what she told me over the phone. Okay, when I moved in, I do have a vehicle. And so when I moved in, that's when she began, like the first few days, that's when she began to ask me for rides, okay? So I would just always give her rides because I felt obligated. I live in your house, why not give you rides? But then I started putting 2 together, you know, she started like having this attitude, and I realized that I was giving her rides to the dope places.
How did you realize
how did I know?
That?
Because we would go downtown, and we'd go to, like, she'd go to her house, it would be her and her boyfriend. And then as soon as we got back home, she would go to her room, and they would be in there for like 20, 30 minutes, and then they would come out and just be sitting down like geeked out on the couch. I don't know, she would just like have attitudes and stuff.
So in your opinion, she was getting high?
In my opinion, I feel like she was getting high, and I could see that.
What property damage are you suing for?
One night, if you don't lock the unlock the garage door before you leave, you can get locked out, which has happened. We call the landlord, they come and have somebody open the door.
What did she do to damage your property?
She took a jack and broke the doorknob off, a master cylinder off. When she came and picked me up that day, I was Aunt Mel, because it was like during the week I'm Aunt Mel, but Friday when it's time to pay the $25, I'm crackhead. At that particular,
you crackhead all the time.
Yeah,
you didn't tell her that?
But I'm just saying, pertaining to the living situation. I'm not just a crackhead on Fridays, honey. That's right.
I'm a crackhead every day.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't play her cheap.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. But I was Aunt Mel that day. Aunt Mel, I broke the lock. I'm gonna pay for it. I had to use a jack to get it.
How much was it?
Cool. It was $130.
She has not paid you yet?
No.
All right, let me hear about that.
Okay, so about the door, so this is what happened. First of all, I just want to say that I'm not used, my mom raised me in like a sheltered environment, so I'm not used to being around people who have, you know, drug issues.
You learn real quick though.
That's a lie. Her mother has 8 kids by 6 drug addicts, so please.
Can I finish?
Her mother has 8 kids by 6 drug dealers.
It's 4.
4 drug dealers. Okay. 4 drug dealers. So sheltered, I don't think so.
Let's get it right.
Can I finish what I have to say, please?
I want to correct that lie. Your mother has 8 children.
8 children, yeah.
Some of them by drug addicts?
No.
Dealers.
Not
dealers.
Drug dealers?
No, they're not.
No,
yes.
Hard-working men.
No. Yes,
okay,
they are.
Have legit jobs. People
Yes, they are.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then some of them live like in Mississippi. They don't even live
Some of the what?
No, I don't think so.
Let's keep it real. Come on now.
Say street farmers.
Let's keep it real.
Right,
We're talking about New York.
I'm
Them hood drugs.
Let us speak.
Suburban
Ma'am, you the one went off into that how special you are.
I'm telling you.
No,
and she was letting you know that you're not so special.
Well, I
we talking about people. She's been arrested by the cops for her conduct.
I've never grew up.
She has been arrested.
You've been arrested too?
And her mother was in the...
Well, that's what she mean by shelter.
They was in the street fighting a man. She in the street fighting with her daughter, but she sheltered.
If you've been to jail, she was sheltered.
Okay, so she left me, so she would go on our binges. So I had the key to the garage. So one day I came home and she didn't yet give me a key, and all I had was the garage opener. So I waited for her about 3 hours. She actually didn't show up to the house till the next day. So what I did was, yes, I told her that I broke the door because I needed to get into the house.
Why don't you think you should pay for it?
No, I think I should pay for that. I have a money order.
Oh, okay. Let me have it then. Let's move on to the next issue, and that's your counterclaim for $500.
Okay.
For emotional distress. How does she owe you?
Because, okay, when she kicked me out October 4th. She just called me up randomly one day. I was at school. She's like, I need you to come get your things.
How long had you lived there?
Since about September, for like a month.
And this was October 4th?
Yeah, when she kicked me out. So I get there, I'm like, well, why do I have to move out? So she tells me, oh, you just need to move out just because. She had like this attitude, and it just happened when she started using the drugs. So then she called the cops on me, okay, and I got my stuff and I moved. They just said that you can't do anything, you have to leave.
Ma'am, did you just call her out of the blue and tell her she had to move?
Actually, it wasn't out of the blue. She came in the house, instead of coming and talking about how we can resolve this, she came in the house, she called me all kind of B words, crackheads. Her mom was on the phone.
May I?
She came, I told her I didn't want to talk to her because she was very,
You wanted to speak?
Yes, this, after she told her to come and get her stuff.
No, we're talking about before then. We can wait for that, which she's given testimony about what happened before then.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Well, no, you're not. You said
day
after.
she got kicked
You said
out.
after.
Well, the day after she called her
No, you
first.
said after, and I'm saying before.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Have a seat. Go ahead. Before you kicked her out, what was happening?
She was very loud. We were arguing. She called me all names. She was telling some truths. And you can tell when people are talking about your history as a drug addict.
It wasn't a history, it was current.
She was like, your son is in prison because of you. Your daughter doesn't live here because of you. This and that. So then I goes and
Is that
get
true,
in.
ma'am?
That is true.
All right.
My cousin just
Ma'am, I'm not convinced that you had an agreement with her to pay rent because by your own admission, you were very cracked out. Now, with regard to the property damage, she agrees she owes, ma'am. Who is this written to?
It's written to Jim.
Who is that?
Jim is her manager, and we actually sent the...
Why didn't you give it to Jim?
Because I kept missing him. And so finally we got
Jim gonna get some extra because you're gonna have to pay today. I can't rely on you giving that to Jim. $167 I will grant you for the damaged property. And with regard to your emotional distress, ma'am, and her asking you to leave, I'm going to conclude that you left under emergency circumstances because you can't curse and go off on somebody in their house. You're not going to be able to live in someone's house any longer if you talk about them, their kids, call them names. No, you're not. You're supposed to leave. I would kick you out too, and it wouldn't be an illegal eviction. It's an emergency eviction based on your behavior in someone else's home. So you get no emotional distress for that. Your claim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff. Have a good day.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm
How's that for you, lush?
I'm doing something with my
What's the
life.
difference between a crackhead, a lush, and
You're the
Yeah.
You're the
stop
difference.
things and do
You're
stuff
the
for crack.
difference.
I don't, baby.
I'm not running around with
you
8
get a
kids
rock
either.
for a rock
Known to
for
be
you.
the neighborhood hoe.
Couple
You
of rocks.
easy street.
Hi, Judge Mathis. My name is Hope. Can I collect child support from the father of my child if he collects Social Security?
Sure you can, Hope. In fact, Social Security recipients are entitled to an allowance that is specifically provided for their children.